What's going on, guys? We're here for week 5, setting our DraftKings.com lineup, and it's a fun one. Somebody's gonna take home $1 million come Monday night, and somebody's got to win it, right? So I don't know. Let's go for it. This lineup, however, it's not necessarily what I would be throwing into that millionaire tournament, especially if you're firing like a single bullet. If you're firing a single bullet, I highly recommend that you just completely get off the chalk. If you heard somebody mention that player's name as a decent play, don't play that player. Like you're, what I'm trying to say is you're really trying to find somebody who's going to have a very low ownership percentage. So I just it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I know that I'll have a few guys going Monday night. Couple of the lineups that I throw in, I will have a Russell Wilson, Percy Harvin. I'll have a Russell Wilson, and what's that running back's name? Marshawn Lynch. And so it's gonna be a fun Monday night, though. It's gonna be a real fun sweat. Hopefully, some of you guys are involved in it. And with that said, let's start plugging away for our cash lineup here. Once again, be making a 50-50 lineup, and I think. Tell you what, let's just get our quarterback out of the way, and we're gonna go with Peyton Manning. It's not hard to pay up for him this week because there's a ton of salaries to exploit. All right, I guess I'll touch on this. This isn't a bad thing, guys. I know that they're really, really low, but in the long run, the player acquisition and the money. Or here, let me start that over. The money that DraftKings has spent on acquiring players for this week alone, they didn't need to, but I guess it's ideal to soften up the salaries to make it fun for those people, you want to make it fun for them. You want them coming back in week 6, week 7. We want to see them next year. We want this industry to stay around. So retaining those customers is just as important as acquiring them. It's no fun for anybody if you have, new players coming in and they're one and done. So anyways, with that aside, and honestly, there's still a ton of skill in this. Like it actually might even require a little bit more skill because you have so many options to pick from. You have to pick the right one. So I don't know. Anyways, I'll shut up. Enough people have talked about it. But so Peyton Manning, like we get to exploit salaries. It's not hard to fit him or Breeze in. So I'm gonna go with Peyton. I have him as the highest ranked quarterback this week, and he's got a good matchup, right? I mean, it's Peyton Manning. There's not a lot that we need to say, but he's got a good matchup. Arizona's given up an average of 245 yards per game and ranks 27th in pass coverage according to Pro Football Focus. Arizona's only generated 3 interceptions. And due to a less than ideal running matchup for Denver, as Arizona has I think they're in the top 10 as far as the best run defense according to PFF. So Peyton already airs it out. Monty Ball hasn't really been getting the job done. So you expect Peyton to throw it out even more, or his normal pass attempts. But they have a team total of 28.5. So like I usually say, when you have a high team total, you have an offense that runs a high percentage of pass plays, and you have Peyton Manning who just picks apart defenses. It's something that I want to target. I want that trigger man, somebody who's going to be involved in generating points. So with Peyton Manning, I guess let's get this chalk play out of the way. So we're going to get one of our running backs here, and he comes in pretty cheap, and he's somebody that everybody's saying is going to be the most, that will have the highest ownership percentage, and it's Rashad Jennings, and I think that's true. I do think that the general population won't be as high on him as, our Twitter feed is. If we look at his game log here, his last game, he only had 6.2 fantasy points, according to DraftKings. And so, and that was mostly because he missed, he didn't miss, he was sat that last half, just because he wasn't needed because the Giants were up so much. So I really suggest that you fade him at your own risk. Last week, like the Vikings ran a total of 44 rushing plays, and they gained 241 yards and found the end zone 4 times. So it's a really good matchup against Atlanta. Atlanta's giving up an average of 153 yards per game, and have given up a league high 9 rushing touchdowns. Now, a little bit of that is, it's because of the 4 touchdowns last week. Like, it's not completely accurate. Don't weigh a ton into that, but still, they've given up 9 rushing touchdowns. The other nice thing here is that Jennings has accounted for 75% of the team's rushes, and that's if you look at weeks 1 through 3. I didn't want to include week 4 because he wasn't in the last half. So, but if you do include weeks 1 through 4, he's also averaged 16 pass routes per game, and passing, pass catching running backs always have a higher floor. You got a team total of 27. It's an optimal matchup. Volume of touches, and on that volume of touches, like I said, 75% of the team's rushes go to Rashad, but the Giants rank 3rd in rush attempts per game. So it's everything just lines up. The salary is ridiculous. I just fade at your own risk. What do you say? Let's get rid of a wide receiver and let's plug in Kelvin Benjamin. So Kelvin's at $4,800. It's way too cheap. Like, just exploiting price here once again, and it's. I guess I should remove that theme because everybody's underpriced. So it's but Kelvin, he ranks inside my top 12, and I'm getting ready to put him inside my top 10 as I'm kind of tweaking my rankings today. And the nice thing is that the Panthers essentially have no run game to lean on, and I think Kelvin's going to be the primary beneficiary of that. It's no secret that Kelvin, wow, can't talk today. That Kelvin, who stands at 6 feet 5 inches, weighs 240 pounds. I mean, he's a physical specimen. He's going to create size mismatches versus Chicago DBs. Fuller, who's 5'11", and then you've got Jennings, who's 5'8". So it's just a big red zone presence. Like, that's what really sets his ceiling, is the multi-TD threat. But what sets his floor is that he's received no less than 8 targets through all 4 games so far. So high floor, high ceiling kind of guy. I actually have him and Cam paired up in a millionaire matchmaker. I know Cam's legs are not there, and hopefully we'll see them come back by week 6-ish, probably like week 7 as he gets more comfortable with his ankle. But nonetheless, Kelvin Benjamin for our wide receiver here. What do you guys? Let's do defense. And defenses is all about finding the appropriate salary to give you some cap space to be able to plug in at a guy at a higher floor at your flex position or something along those lines. And this week for me, it's the Chargers. They've generated at least 2 sacks in every game and have 3 sacks in the last 2 games. The Jets have given up 10 sacks in 4 weeks, and it's Geno Smith. The dude loves to turn the ball over, so interceptions can lead to pick sixes. And I think the Chargers have only allowed 21 points so far. Like, that's the most points that they've allowed. So it's just all things point to the Chargers just being a good defense to plug in here. I do like the Lions, but they're a little pricey for me on DraftKings. I think they're have a much more favorable price point over on FanDuel. But DraftKings this week, let's go with the Chargers. And let's get rid of another wide receiver. And I think this is another guy that comes in, honestly, at more of a fair price point for who he is and what he's done. Like this, it's just kind of odd that he's priced this way. And it's Brian Quick. He's not as much of a physical specimen as like Kelvin is, but I think he stands at like 6 feet 2 inches, like 220 pounds. So he definitely has the measurables that we look for. The other nice thing is that he's got an outstanding 41% market share of the wide receiver targets on his teams, and he also gets a decent matchup against Kerry Williams, who has surrendered 111.9 passer rating to quarterbacks when they target Kerry Williams. So it's a good matchup. I think like when you target the Philly offense, it's all because you're targeting an expected increase in volume for the opposing team's skill position players, which also is one of the reasons why I like Zach Stacy. Austin Davis is super, super cheap. Fantasy Elite, he's the minimum. So if you're playing the early slate on Fantasy Elite, $5,000, it's really, really good. Like, I paired up Drew Brees and Austin Davis, and still had enough money to spend on DeMarco, Jimmy Graham. Brian Quick was like $9,000 over on Fantasy Elite, but we're not setting a Fantasy Elite lineup. We're setting a DraftKings lineup. So we got Brian Quick there at our wide receiver. Our tight end, there's really 3 tight ends that I have plugged in the most for my cash game lineups. Actually 2 for my cash game lineups with a little bit of exposure to ASJ. But I don't know how, like, the matchup isn't ideal for Travis Kelce, but it's still, when you look at, once again, creating size mismatches, looking at red zone targets, he doesn't run a ton of routes for his team. Like, those have stayed the same in weeks 1 through 4, but his target increase has increased. So we've seen 5 targets, 6 targets, 4 targets, and then 9 targets respectively weeks 1 through 4. He's minimum. I mean, he gives us a lot of money to work with. He's going to let us get another running back here, who I think is kind of an auto lock at $7,500. I mean, his price point dropped $800 from last week. It's DeMarco Murray, and going with DeMarco, you got to take advantage of his salary. I like you do with all these soft salaries. Sorry, I'll shut up with the soft salaries. But I don't see any reason not to own him, unless like maybe you're going with like all high upside wide receivers like a Julio, and then a Kelvin, and then you want to spend more on wide receivers like Antonio Brown. So, but in cash games, I suggest setting your floor with running backs. His variance for wide receivers is a little bit higher, and running backs are easier to predict. DeMarco's not catching the ball as much as I wanted him to see, but he's still averaging 133 rushing yards per game. He's averaging 25 rushing attempts per game, so that helps set his floor as to where if it was like 19 rushing attempts and you had some more targets, but we're seeing less targets and more rushing attempts. So we still have a really good floor, seeing a ton of red zone opportunities. You've got Dallas, which is a 4-point favorite, so it hints at the game script. Should lead to a lot of DeMarco rushing the football, and Dallas is 7th in the league for rush attempts. It's not the Trestman offense that we all envisioned, but it's still working out for DeMarco Murray. I have an unhealthy amount of Murray and Jennings in my lineups, in my cash game lineups. Honestly, I've faded a lot of Jennings in my millionaire lineups. Like 1 or 2, I think you have to have exposure to him, but I don't. It's just he's the ultimate fade. Like I remember, I don't remember who it was, but Felix Hernandez was going up against the Astros. Honestly, I think it was like week 1 or week 2 of baseball, and it was for a FanDuel qualifier, and he stacked the Stros and faded Felix and went to Vegas. And it's one of those plays where it's completely against the grain. You're fading one of the most, you're fading who is projected or who we all think is going to have the highest ownership in Rashad Jennings. And by doing that, if he stinks, then you're gaining such an edge on the field right there just by not having him in your lineup and spending that money on somebody else. So anyways, cash games, fade at your own risk. GPP is a little bit of exposure with Jennings. Enough on Jennings, though. What do you say? Let's get what do we have here? We have a flex and another wide receiver that we have to fill. Let's do our wide receiver, and then we'll see how much money we have left over at our flex. So this guy's price point still, I did it again, bagged on the price points. This guy has a good price point. Let's just put it at that. Let's just say that they all have good price points. Keenan Allen, $5,800, still priced underneath $6,000, and Keenan and Kelvin have been really at the core of my wide receivers this week for my cash games and some exposure in my GPP lineups as well, my tournament lineups. So according to PFF, the Jets have the 5th best run defense in the league, but they have the 12th worst pass coverage, which should force Rivers to air it out. And Keenan should run most of his routes versus Antonio Allen, who quarterbacks are targeting on average of 9 times per game and has allowed a 60% catch rate on those targets. So it doesn't hurt that the Jets secondary have yet to record an interception. It doesn't hurt that San Diego doesn't have a run game, much like Carolina doesn't have a run game. And Keenan and Phillip Rivers have really created a connection. I know it's anecdotal, but it's true. So, okay, all right, flex, let's go. We've got our flex spot here, and we got $5,200 to spend on our flex spot. I know there's already one guy that I really like at $5,100, but let's just see what we have. Darren Sproles, and Manny Sanders was the one guy that I like at $5,100. We get to pair him up with Peyton, which is always nice. He's not like I think that's just a really good price. I almost did it again. So it's not that I'm as high on Manny Sanders as I am. I just really like his price. He's been like in a full point PPR. He's just had it's really hard to get away from. Look at his game log. So his game log is 6, 8, and 11. He had 11 catches versus Seattle. It's just hard to get away in full point PPR against to get away from Emmanuel Sanders in a full point PPR. The other guys that we're looking at, Justin Forsett, it's actually not horrible if you want to go with a running back in your cash game lineup instead of a wide receiver. So I would probably go with Manny Sanders here. Like I just want to once again exploit that price point. So that's what we've got for a cash game lineup here. I think, what do you say? Let's screw around with this a little bit. Let's stick with a couple core plays like Murray. Let's get rid of Rashad. Let's get rid of Peyton. I want Kelvin, and I want Quick, even though his price is not favorable, but I still want him. Keenan Allen, let's get rid of. Travis Kelce, let's get rid of. And Manny Sanders, let's get rid of as well. Okay, so what our core is now is we have DeMarco Murray, Kelvin Benjamin, Brian Quick. I'm going to build a little bit more of a tournament lineup here. So at quarterback, I really am digging on Mr. Efficient here. I can't find him. He's like 7,400, 7,800, 7,600. There he is. Russell Wilson at $7,600. It's Mr. Efficient. He's got like a 69% completion rate, and his legs do help. They've helped. His legs have helped him a hell of a lot more than Cam Newton's legs have helped him. So I honestly also think Russell Wilson is a good cash game play as well if you want to upgrade your tight end, and that's what I'm going to do right now. Let's go get Julius Thomas at $6,900. Yeah, right. Yeah, $6,900. Julius Thomas, running back here. I think a guy to target, and maybe we get rid of Brian Quick, because of this. Actually, you know what? No, Reggie Bush. No. What's it? Why can't Bell? No. Joique Bell for Buffalo out with a concussion. So it's gonna be the Reggie Bush show here. The Buffalo's interior has been good, but they're missing. Oh my gosh, what's his name? I wrote him up too, and I can't even think of it. But he grades out as like the 7th best defensive right tackle, and they're gonna be without him. So, and Reggie Bush is more of a pass catcher, anyways. It's just he's one of those guys that not a lot of people are talking about. Although now with the news of Bell being out and him seeing a full volume, it's more chalky than it was 2 days ago. So Reggie Bush, good running back play there. So we got $4,000 to go here with our flex. Let's save some money and let's just go with ASJ at $3,000. No Mike Evans. He's a ginormous guy. 6'6", like 2 250, 242, something along those lines. So he should see a bump in his targets. I wrote him up in the analysis. Give it a look. And for a wide receiver here, we've got $5,000. Oh man, what can we do with $5,000? Oh, Golden Tate. That's actually not the worst thing to do. I actually really like Golden Tate. DeAndre Hopkins against Dallas at $4,800. He really, all he does is catch touchdowns, like what, 5 for 49 like every game, and yeah, 3 TDs, 564, 6 for 116. So I think that I know that Andre Johnson looks to be good to go. He did have a little bit of a nag, but if for any reason he misses time, like that could definitely be the Hopkins show. So I mean, really, you're just trying to find somebody who we're not talking about a lot. Brandon Cooks, $4,700. So I would actually go with DeAndre Hopkins here at $4,800, and you can mess around with this if you want to get off Russell and save some money, and then maybe upgrade from Brian Quick, or downgrade DeMarco and upgrade, DeAndre, or don't like Kelvin, get rid of Kelvin. So that is kind of where we're at for week 5. Make sure that you guys are going over to Project Roto and that you are checking out Matt Riddle's Garbage Pail Kids, where he talks about a ton of cheap plays. The write-up that he did this week was huge. So many options just because of all the low price points. And make sure you give Justin Bale's article a read too. Jonathan Bale's little brother. So he's pumping out some really good content for us. Talks about the sweet spot over on DraftKings. So just highlighting some guys who have good matchups, good price points, etc. Really good content. You've got my cheat sheets and my daily analysis that I do. Make sure you give Nick's ranks a look, and comparing our composite rankings where all of us rank with Tony, with Hude, with Adam. Lots of good stuff. So I think with that said, have a good week, guys, and enjoy your Sundays and your college football today. And it's going to be a good weekend. Take care.